As we get ready to watch the Olympic Games, some lessons about athletics and achievement to consider, perhaps. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from Achieve Institute is founder and CEO Mark Cunningham. Hi, Mark.
How you doing, Fred?
Terrific. Well, Mark, you are an athlete turned entrepreneur and consultant. Tell us more about your background to start with. You were, I believe, an Olympic hopeful.
I was training at that level as a decathlete, and I was trying to make the Olympics. And what was interesting on that journey is you're working really hard toward your goals, and you're putting in all the effort you can, and you realize that there's a big difference between working hard and working smart. And I learned along the way that I maybe wasn't working as smart. So there are little secrets to high performance that I actually didn't use while I was training, and I kind of figured them out at the end of my career when it was a little too late. But actually, that's what led me into what I do now with organizations. And what are the secrets of top performers, and what are the little differences that make a big difference in your end result? And that's what I've been doing the last 25 years. But it did start while I was training at the elite level.
Well, it sounds useful for everyone. Tell us more about what you're doing with the Achieve Institute and the operation there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we help big organizations and mid-sized organizations really drive toward what are the optimal performing habits that they can have. Every organization has really good people, but it doesn't mean they have the best habits to drive results. And in today's world, more than ever, you need to be thinking and working in the best way possible to get the most out of yourself, to get the most out of your talent, to drive the results that you need to. And what we have is a scalable system that we bring to organizations. So it isn't just a one-to-one, but it's how do you get large groups working effectively together? And as you know, there's so much change and transformation happening in the market, especially with technology changing so fast. The need for having people working more effectively and dealing well with change is higher than ever.
You're not necessarily talking about having people coding until 2 a.m. every day, right?
That's right. That's right. It's interesting. The work is always there, but what we see is organizations aren't always working in the smartest way. They could be working hard, but it doesn't mean they're working in the most optimal way to drive results. And what we do is we overlay what are some ways of working and thinking that actually make sure you're actually you can work smarter instead of harder. There will always be hard work. That doesn't go away, that you have to put in the work, but are you getting the same return on your efforts? And actually going back to my training days, what I look back at is I saw people that really were successful and they did both. They worked smart and hard, and that you would see a different trajectory along their career. And I actually have more of a systematic background. I'm an economics degree guy, and my dad was an engineer. And what I look for is what are the repeatable systems, or what are repeatable practices people do that are more effective than others that other people can copy. And that's what we share with large organizations and mid-sized organizations.
Well, without giving away all the secrets, give us an idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what people ask me all the time is like, what are some little things that you can do? And I'm going to start on a simple one, but it's really powerful, and people underestimate their own expectations. And what I mean by that is, where are we going? What's next? And most people without knowing it, and most organizations without knowing it, based most of their expectations on their past, not their future. What that means is they show up to work going, hey, it's going to be more like yesterday. We're doing more of the same. And without knowing it, they're working more backwards than forwards. They're working to improve yesterday, not to get to the new normal, the new way of working. And that's at mass. That's at large groups, is what are we doing today is really fixing what we did yesterday, or is it really oriented in where do we want to go next? When we work with organizations, first we get them aware that most of their behavior is anchored on fixing what the past versus creating what they need in the future. That subtle change makes a very big difference in what you do every day, because now you run it through the filter. Hey, is this getting me to where I want to go? Or is it me continuing on what I did before and continuing on that journey? Fred, you'll be amazed. We see that 95% of behavior and more is anchored backwards and forwards when we work with most organizations. And these are some of the best organizations in the world. It's just a trap people fall into without knowing it.
What are your thoughts about the hybrid work environment that's still with us in many
Yeah.
cases, and the impact on employees, businesses, all the relationships, et cetera?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it ties to what I just said a little bit in that we have to create and find a new normal. And sometimes what people are doing is trying to go back to the past or say, no, we've got to change the way we work here. One of the things when we work with organizations is because this comes up quite a bit for us, is we anchor in high performance, not what makes people comfortable. And you have to make sure, like, wait, how is it that we need to work where we're getting the most out of our talent, but using the new ways of working, but anchor it in what's going to make us the most effective team, the most effective organization. And it's not, well, we got to go back to the past of having people do it the way we used to, or we have to keep doing this hybrid because people are more comfortable working from home. It's more about, wait a minute, what works for this organization in terms of what's the best way for us to work, but so we deliver the best results for the organization, not what's going to make everyone the most comfortable. Now, interestingly, if people are unhappy, you're not going to get the most productive work. So you have to take into consideration how people feel about their jobs and how they're working. So we're helping people all the time say you have to recreate the way you work, and what works with one organization may not work for another organization. And that's where individual cultures come into or types of work where one answer isn't the same for other groups.
Yeah, and along those lines, there seems to be more of an awareness today on mental well-being in everyday life and in sports too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually personally wasn't paying attention to this when I was training. You're just going out there and working every day and doing the best you can. But one of the things that's anchored in highest performance is you've got to be on, you've got to be sharp, and you've got to be really alert and ready. And one of the things that we look at is you've got to get people working, but you also want to get people energized, motivated, and engaged, and realize that that is part of the equation. There's a CEO I work with, and we talked about this recently, and he said, Mark, more than ever, CEOs are concerned about that mental health and concern. And he's like, and more than ever, it's a problem. And what's interesting is it doesn't mean people aren't focusing on it. It just means maybe they're not coming about it. They haven't figured out that solution. So it's not that people care less, people care more. But the reason is it's a big challenge because you've got to have a healthy workforce. You got to have people, you got to care about the whole person. And as I was saying earlier, work never stops now. Your technology follows you. You can check an email, you can check anything everywhere, and it's moving so fast. So you have to figure out ways in working where you actually make sure people are energized and motivated. And it is a real challenge. And the organizations that figure this out will definitely be outperforming the ones that don't.
What are you telling your clients today about AI and how they bring that into the workforce?
That's a great question. I was actually on with an AI expert earlier today around this exact topic. They're giving the tactical advice. What's interesting about what we do, Fred, is we don't give tactical advice around how do you do this better? How do you do that better? We give more performance advice on whatever you're doing, here's the best way you get out of this. And AI really falls into this category. AI is a new tool. It's new technology that's coming, but it isn't like people are trying to say, okay, AI will solve this, but people are still going to be a big part of this equation. And the people that implement AI and utilize AI in the best way possible are the ones that are going to get the most benefits out of it. We have a thing in our framework, Fred, that we call create, don't fix. And what we see is organizations spend a tremendous amount of time trying to fix things. We have to fix this problem. We got to fix that problem. And what we get people to get is that's a suboptimal way of working because you're actually going backwards instead of forwards. And we see a lot of, even with AI, people are trying to fix things with AI. And what actually is a much more effective approach is not fixing things. It's really saying, wait, let's create what we need and leverage AI. And what does that look like? So it's how are we best using this tool to drive the business results that we need, but knowing that people are always going to be a part of the equation.
Interesting. Where can people go for more info on all that you're doing, Mark?
Yeah, so the best way is our website is achieveinst.com. And then you can go in and find out a little bit more about us. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, things like that. But those are the best places to start getting a deeper understanding of what we do and how we work with organizations.
The site again is achieveinst.com. Mark Cunningham, thank you so much for spending time with us.
I really appreciate the time today, Fred.